Morning. Did we run this? No, we did not run this last night. Good morning, Jen. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for sharing the live, Alexa. That's very sweet of you. It's very kind. What time is it? I think it's almost 8:30. That's what time we usually start. Pretty much on the nose. Almost exactly. We usually start a little early these days because this book's chapters tend to be a little longer than the other books, but we usually start about 8:30. Oops. Let's make up coffee. Good morning, Avery. How are you feeling? How's everyone doing this morning? Hey, Amanda. Sorry to have beat the pants off you in fantasy football. It's the pants. It's the pants. Listen, I'm going to call it the pants because I had to fight for that win. That was not an easy win for me. It wasn't a predicted win. I fought for that win. I have to read a meeting, but I don't think it's on the wall unless it's TikTok. Oh, Danny, that's so kind of you. Thank you, Danny. Thank you for that kindness. That's very sweet of you. I hope that you'll get to catch up on the book after regardless, because it is pretty good. My win against Amanda in fantasy football this week was not expected, nor was it guaranteed. It was a hard-fought win. I went on the waiver wire to change players 3 separate days this week. Are you okay? Why are you doing this in the middle of my winning speech? This is my villain moment. Let me gloat. Why are you so loud? Stop it. You're ruining everything right now. That was a good speech. Anyway, what I was saying is I had to go on the waiver wire 3 separate times over the course of the week to change out players to get this win. It was not guaranteed. I fought for this win and I won it. So, A+ for me and my players this week. However, I will tell you, I am benching CJ Stroud this week. He deserves to be benched. He did bad, and he's not coming back on the field this week. No. I'm benching him. I'm mad at him, and I'm benching him. It's true. I'm going to bench him. He did bad, not good, and I'm mad at him. I have a guy on waivers right now. Really? You said, are you okay? And this friend of Miles said, yep, good, Miles. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad for you. Miles, I want you to be okay more than I care about the Nespresso machine. Though I do want the Nespresso machine to be a little quieter. Yeah, I'm feeling okay. Good, because you weren't feeling so good before, and Aunt Sasha was worried about you. And Sasha's always worried about you when you're not feeling good. Do you think I can scooch this without spilling it? Oh, I did scooch it without spilling it. Look at me go. Look at me go. Morning from Costco parking lot. What are you getting at Costco today that's exciting? I actually really like Costco. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Costco. I can't believe we had no Puba on Renee's back and rocking it. Yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised. Maureen from Minnesota, been wearing to Minnesota. Here also, it's my second batch is supposed to be delivered today, so hopefully. Yeah, I think we should just wait until today, and then, you know what I mean? If we get to reship, we'll reship. We'll submit a claim. It's not the end of the world, Sarah, but like, I play you next week and I have 6 people on bye week. You better get on that waiver wire and change some people out. Yeah. I mean, listen, you guys, is this book kid friendly? Yes, it is. This book is kid friendly. Yes. It is a nonfiction book about the goings on at the Disney Channel, and it is. I mean, there have been a couple of curse words or whatever, but I've kind of, what do you call it? Like muted what do you call it? I've like bleeped myself, essentially. Some of our nonfiction was. That's true, but it's Disney Channel. Yeah, censored myself. That's right, censored myself. Yeah. So I would say yes to kid friendly. Also, we're reading about Hannah Montana today, so you know, could be interesting for all. It is a good book. Yeah, I like it too. I think it's been really eye-opening and really interesting. Sometimes when you fall into, okay, so for example, if you're someone like me who's worked in entertainment, you might think that you know what's coming, but there have been surprises in this book, and I'm not gonna lie, I like a surprise. I'm a big fan of a surprise. I knew a girl that looked like little Miley. Very strange. That is strange. I don't think I've ever known a kid that looked like Miley Cyrus. My opinion of her has grown so much over the years, and I'm expecting it will grow even more reading this chapter. We'll see. We'll see what happens right now, obviously. Really quickly, before we start, I want to talk to you guys and get some opinions about the new... So this morning, I don't think Renee's on here. Does anyone know where Renee is? Has anyone heard from Renee this morning? Because this is a conversation Renee should be a part of, because she might do this with me, or at least that was our original plan. So here's the situation. This morning, Run Disney released their races for next year. Renee and I wanted to do the Halloween race here at Disneyland this year. Obviously, I couldn't do it because I am pregnanto and it would have been this week. And I just didn't want to risk anything, you know, with like all the bouncing of running and whatever like that, running a while. Miles is pretending to be the most giving friend, with medicine in it. So Renee and I had discussed that. They just announced next year's Disneyland Halloween race. And I'm like, do we think that I can get it together between February, because the sign up is November, so I have to sign up next month. Hey Naisa, if I want to do the Halloween race that's next year in October, I have to sign up next month this year, right? So you have to pre-plan for these things, yeah? So do we think I can get my butt in gear in 8 months to do a half marathon after this child is born? I don't know. Will she think I'm cool watching me run across the finish line when she's only 8 months old? Probably, because 8-month-olds are really easy to entertain, right? Like they think everything's cool, and the sparkles and the lights, she'll probably think that's very cool. 8-month-olds are really easy to entertain. They like almost anything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like maybe it'll get my butt in gear if I have like a thing that I have to do. It will make me get out there and like take her stroller around and run with her. Exactly, Jen, it gives you a deadline. I haven't talked to Renee, but she says it. Yeah, well, Renee and I were gonna do it together this year, and we both didn't do it this year because I was pregnant. So I feel like Renee would probably want to jump in again next year because I know she really wants to do it. If anyone else wants to do it, of course, this is not just to Renee. I'm only saying Renee because we've previously discussed it. If anyone else is interested, feel free to jump on board. It's not a cheap thing to sign up for by any means, but it's always been a really good motivator to me in the past. The race is a half a marathon, so I can't remember off the top of my head now what that is, but it's a half marathon. So 13.1 miles, I think, is the total for the half marathon. I do fitness with looming deadlines. Right, exactly. Fitness with looming deadlines. You're interested in not running. You could just come and hold the baby. You know how Becca doesn't read, Ray doesn't run. That's totally fine. Come hold the baby while I run. You guys can all take turns holding the baby because 13 miles is a long time. And I imagine that even though on my last half marathon, I ran my fastest time ever, I think this might be my slowest time ever because I'll just be getting back to it after having a baby. My boyfriend just did the Marine Corps Marathon Sunday. He saw, I believe that. I've never done a full marathon, but I've done a challenge, which was 19 miles. So I've gotten close. It's not a full marathon, but it's pretty close. I'm not interested in dying next year. That's fair. But are you interested in coming to Disneyland and holding a baby while I run? That's the bigger question. How many of you would like to snuggle my baby while I do the running? That's what I'm saying, Becca. Like, it's like a whole thing, right? It's the right time. So I don't know. We have until next month to decide, right? I feel like I'm not even sorry. Yeah, you don't have to be sorry. I don't know. I'm gonna talk to Secret Husband about it and see what he thinks. If he's like, I mean, I'm sure he'll be supportive of it, whatever. Because like I was looking, a time hop came up of one of my previous races recently on our phone, and we were looking at it, and I was like, oh man, remember when I was really fit? And he was like, you can do those again one day, you know. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I do want to do it. I'm just wondering, like, I mean, I guess the thing of it is that, like, if something tragic happens to my body, we just call it a wash and I've wasted the money on the ticket. My partner did the Hood Coast to Coast, which is a half marathon cut in thirds, and you sit in a cramped van. That sounds terrible. Why you want to sit in a cramped van? I don't like that. That part sounds awful. The whole fun is being out in Disneyland and running around. But like I can take her stroller out on little runs, right? Like, so we can chill while I do my run training. She can come with me and train with me in her little, you know, right? Strollers have wheels. It's like a whole thing, right? People do this. This is a thing people do when they have children. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm gonna think about it. I just wanted to put it out there that it's on the table because they posted it this morning. It's a relay from Mount Hood to the seaside, and each person has 3 legs. Oh, so you have to transfer yourself to the next station. Mount Hood is beautiful and was mentioned in the book that I started this morning. The book that I started this morning was called Witchy Coffee. I don't know if it's going to be good or not. Jogging strollers are absolutely worth it and so much easier to walk and run with relay. I don't have a stroller yet, but obviously we'll get one and we'll decide. I'd be more impressed to see Anya run it. Facts, there is an entire division of Run Disney for wheelchair racers. So Anya can do the race, by the by. No, you want her to run it? Okay, well, I don't know how to help you with that. But she can participate. Nisa, it's so hard. I can't even run a full mile. It's hard. My favorite jogging stroller is the B.O.B. Wait, what's B.O.B.? What does that stand for, Allie? Tell me so I can look it up. Because I would like to look it up. It's the company. Oh, the company is literally B.O.B. Oh, okay. I didn't know if it stood for something. Okay, sorry. I'm new to this, you guys. I'm still learning. I don't have a stroller. And by the by, I generally hate strollers, but I know I have to have one because I'm about to have an infant and you just have to deal with it. And I can't like strap her to my chest and go for a run. Like that's not gonna work. Especially when she's so small. But I do hate strollers. Why are you telling me stop it? The truth is I hate strollers. How long do you have to run the half marathon to run? That's a good question. I can't remember. I think the max that you can be is a 16-minute mile. I think a 16-minute mile is the maximum you're allowed. I see them as a coffee cup holder. Yeah. Check out Jamie Grayson. He's a CPST and a baby product reviewer. Oh, will you send me a message with that so I don't forget the name? I looked for a used one, new one isn't in your budget. Yeah, I can do that. I can definitely do that. I've been checking out our Facebook marketplace for stuff. It's funny. I found the bassinet that I want on Facebook Marketplace, and the person hadn't even used it, and I was gonna go get it, and literally as I was going to get it, one of my friend, it is in my aunt's budget, one of my friends bought the bassinet off of our registry, so I was like, oops, never mind, and didn't go to get the bassinet. It was very kind of her to get it, but I have been scouring Marketplace for like stuff because I don't know, I'm a cheapskate. It is what it is. Okay, today we are reading chapter 10, and chapter 10 is The Rise of Hannah Montana. Here we go. On Friday afternoons at 4 p.m., a line of pulsating energy snaked around Stage 9 at the KTLA studios on Sunset Boulevard. When the doors pushed open, scores of screaming children and their amenable parents climbed the risers to fill the 200 or so audience seats facing the soundstage. High on adrenaline and free pizza, they cheered for the cast so loudly between takes that the crew struggled to hear the directions. I can't believe my best friend hates something I love so much. Listen, we can agree to disagree over strollers. There are some things that you have to break up a friendship over. Strollers is not one of them, Becca. Who you vote for? Sure. We're voting for the same person. That doesn't matter. Not liking a stroller is not the end of the world. You guys, Becca loves strollers and I hate strollers, and it pains her in the depths of her soul that I don't like strollers. I also like clear slime. I don't know what to tell you. She's so butthurt that I don't like strollers, you guys. I don't like hurting you. I love you deeply. I just don't love strollers. They're just annoying to me. Stroller. I couldn't have survived without my double stroller. Yeah, I'm definitely on this train, Ray. But you don't hate white glue. I don't hate white glue. I actually love white glue. Okay. The cacophony made the adult audiences at network sitcoms seem like a demure funeral guest. The kids were animalistic. Do you like shopping carts? No. Hate them. I also don't carry a purse, you guys. Like, I don't like having anything that I have to like deal with. I don't carry a purse. I don't want a stroller. I don't want a shopping cart. I'm just like done with all of it. Secret husband pushes the shopping cart when we go grocery shopping, and I just toss stuff in because he doesn't mind it. Not a fan. Not a fan. The hottest ticket in town was an audience seat at the taping of, drumroll please, Hannah Montana. Quote, a boom in children's entertainment had created a new blood sport in Hollywood, the New York Times' Brooke Barnes wrote in 2007. What admission to a private school is to some parents in New York, a trip backstage at Hannah Montana has become to certain moms and dads in Hollywood. That's very funny, Becca. As the cast got their final hair and makeup done before each Friday shoot, the audience would watch a previously aired episode of Hannah Montana to get hyped for what they were about to see live. Quote, sometimes I would look out and watch the kids who were watching the monitor, executive producer Steve Peterman said, and I would see kids mouthing the dialogue because they had watched the episode so many times that they memorized it. On one day in particular in 2007, among the throngs of mostly young girls and their moms, a balding, middle-aged man sat with a blank look on his face as the warm-up guy chattered through a series of asinine jokes. There sat Larry David, at the height of his Curb Your Enthusiasm fame, diligently playing the pre-show games with his two daughters, Cassie and Romy. That's funny. David had called the producers begging for audience tickets to make his girls happy. There's Larry David having to pass a balloon without using his hands, Peterman said. I think this is unbelievable. A few weeks later, one of the Hannah scripts called for a celebrity cameo to illustrate the exclusivity of a restaurant on the show. The original plan was to have Gary Marsh appear as himself. "Don't you know who I am? I'm the president of Disney Channel Entertainment," he would say in the script. "And I'm the president of the I Don't Care Club," the maitre d' would say before letting Hannah Montana waltz on in. But Marsh was busy traveling overseas on that week, and they would need a last-minute backup. Someone suggested calling David. The comedian was notoriously press-shy and shunned the spotlight outside of his own creative work, but it was worth a shot anyway. He had just been seen at the taping and seemed to be willing to do previously unimaginable things to please his kids. And Sasha has never been so boring. Oh well, sorry kiddos. Peterman called him up with a request. If David would be willing to appear as himself, they could also write in small roles for his daughters in the scene. Whoa. Now see here, that's a kicker. If you're a parent, doing it yourself is one thing. Getting your kids on the show when they love it, you're a hero. He's just a hero for the rest of forever. And it would let them spend the whole day on set with Hannah. Quote, I never do this, David fretted, but when is it? Well, it's next week, Peterman replied. We're filming Curb, David said. Can you move it? We don't have any other episodes ready. It has to be next week, Peterman said before adding the final twist of guilt. Listen, maybe something will come up later in the season. You're a wonderful father for even considering doing this. I thank you for even entertaining the idea. Then there was a long pause from David. No, don't call anybody yet. Give me 15 minutes. David called back a few minutes later, and as promised, there was good news. He rearranged the Curb shooting schedule so that he could film the Hannah Montana scene with his daughters instead. That's very sweet. Following the success of the Cheetah Girls and Hilary Duff, as well as the wider popularity of American Idol and Britney Spears, Disney Channel had been eager to create a series around a singular fictional pop star. Britney went from being an artist that young kids loved to watch to one where parents were starting to question whether she was the right role model for them. An original series head Adam Bonnet said of Britney's In the Zone era, during which she made headlines for kissing Madonna at the VMAs and having 2 quickie weddings in a single year. So we thought, hey, let's create a pop star, even if it's a fictional pop star, one that could fill that void and feel appropriate for kids. Despite the contentious firing of showrunner Michael Porres during the first season of That's So Raven over his clash with the writers, he was subsequently given the opportunity to try his hand at writing a pilot based on the idea of a girl who lives a double life as a pop star. It was the beginning of Hannah Montana. What Porres said he didn't know at the time was that Rich Correll, the Frequent Suite Life director, and his writing partner Barry O'Brien had already pitched a similar pilot to Bonnet. Theirs, Correll said, was called Where's Xandra, about a regular girl named Alexandra who moonlighted as a pop star called Xandra. According to Correll, his and O'Brien's script included key details like the secret closet full of pop star clothes, and it followed a plot similar to a season 1 Hannah episode where Miley's date buys them tickets to a Hannah Montana concert and she spends the evening Mrs. Doubtfire-esque rapid shuffling between identities. That's a funny scene in Mrs. Doubtfire, you guys. Do you guys remember that? I love how the titles are more interesting. It's just their names. Yeah, exactly. When Correll found out what was going on, he was shocked. Adam Bonnet was standing, this is a quote, sorry. Adam Bonnet was standing on the stage of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and I remember him saying to me on a break, I hope you won't be too unhappy that we took an idea that's very similar to something you pitched and we're making a series out of it, Correll said. I was like, what do you mean? You never say to somebody, I hope you're not going to be too unhappy because we stole your house and your car, end quote. The Writers Guild took the matter to arbitration, and Correll and O'Brien were eventually given co-creator credits on Hannah Montana and a cut of the show's profits. It's probably for the best. Making things even messier, a comedy writer named Buddy Sheffield claimed that he had originally pitched Disney a pilot about a regular kid who secretly lived life as a pop star called Rock and Roland in 2001. Sheffield sued over the alleged similarities and the lack of compensation, and he and Disney settled out of court in 2008. Meanwhile, as Disney moved forward with Porys' Hannah Montana script, veteran TV producer Steve Peterman, who had overseen the later seasons of Murphy Brown and created Suddenly Susan, was in need of a new showrunner job. Network comedy still hadn't recovered from the early 2000s reality TV onslaught, and, like so many out-of-work sitcom producers before him, he and his writing partner Gary Danzig found themselves just desperate enough to consider the Disney Channel. Bonnet showed the duo 3 unrelated pilot scripts to potentially oversee. Of those, Peterman and Danzig felt Porys' Hannah script had the most potential. Quote, his script was kind of like schlocky, typical silly kids show stuff, Peterman said, but what I liked about Michael's Hannah script was that being famous didn't solve this girl's problems, it just complicated her life more. End quote. Peterman was more enthusiastic about it than Danzig was, but they worked with Porys to retool the script and get it into pilot shape. They killed off the mom character, how dare they, to give the teen protagonist more vulnerability, and the dad went from being a songwriter to a musician, and popular girls named Amber and Ashley were added as the school bullies. The network was pleased and made Peterman and Danzig an offer to run the show. The pair had recently been fired after helming a pilot at a different network, and Peterman was described by one of his colleagues as the nicest man in showbiz, and he wasn't keen on inflicting the same pain upon Porys, so he pushed Disney to allow Porys to stay on as executive producer. Danzig couldn't stomach the idea of being attached to a project for at least 65 episodes, so he just bowed out entirely. And Peterman and Porys forged ahead as a showrunner duo on the hunt for a star to play a star. It's interesting because I have never actually seen even an episode of Hannah Montana because I like aged out of all this before this, but I'm very interested in like everything that went on around it. But like High School Musical was kind of the end for me of like what I actually genuinely watched, for whatever reason. Disney Channel routinely sent casting directors on broad nationwide searches for fresh talent, and now that they had the Hannah Montana script and showrunners locked down, the search for this specific project kicked into overdrive. Casting directors Lisa London and Catherine Stroud saw more than 1,200 girls testing their acting, singing, and dancing skills in multi-part auditions for the lead character, who was then named Zoe, to moonlight as the pop star Hannah Montana. Hannah Montana was absolutely my jam. I'm a late 90s baby. Yeah, you're younger, Sophie, so that makes total sense. Authenticity was key here. Marsh wanted someone who could actually sing, both to make the pop star element believable and to carry on the potential solo music career a la Hilary Duff. The widespread casting call reached the talent agent of an 11-year-old girl in Tennessee, Miley Cyrus, nee Destiny Hope Cyrus, but dubbed Miley for her exceptional smiley nature as a baby by her country music singer father, Billy Ray Cyrus. Miley's agent was asked to send tapes of all her female clients between the ages of 11 and 16 to Disney, and Miley just squeaked into the age range and read for the part of Zoe's best friend, Lily. Almost immediately, London and Stroud called, wanting Miley to make another tape, but this time reading for Zoe. Bursting with excitement, Miley hastily recorded a new tape, but the ensuing rejection was swift. Disney felt that she was too young and too small to play the lead. Quote, we showed them Miley's tape and they said no, Stroud said, and then we showed them Miley's retape and they said no. End quote. Miley continued on with 6th grade in Thompson Station on the outskirts of Nashville. She'd missed 5th grade when the family moved to Canada to be with Billy Ray as he shot his new TV show, Doc. Her embryonic acting career had included a small part on that series, as well as a bit in Tim Burton's Big Fish. I did not know she was in Big Fish. I love Big Fish. I still listen to Hannah Montana songs for a little bit of nostalgia. Yeah. But now Miley was getting bullied by Tennessee mean girls who made her days miserable, and she dreamed of getting out. Back in LA, London and Stroud spent 6 months trying to find anyone better than Miley for the role. They went to agents and managers. They put up casting notices in performing arts schools. The long list of girls who read for the part included Vanessa Hudgens, Shailene Woodley, Lucy Hale, Sarah Hyland, Sarah Paxton, Ashley Benson, Jeanette McCurdy, Taylor Momsen, and Danielle Monette. They also considered Brie Larson and the singer JoJo, who both passed on auditioning. Gary Marsh had initially offered it to Ali and AJ Michalka, offered them the roles of Zoe and Lily, but they turned those down.
Finally, the Disney Channel executives agreed to give Miley another chance. She was 6 months older by then, and maybe they could make it work. They asked Miley to come to LA and audition in person. Her mom, Tish, wrote a note excusing Miley from cheerleading practice, and they ventured out west. Just from cheerleading practice. She didn't need to be excused from school, just cheerleading practice. Sorry, that's funny to me. The Cyruses had assumed Miley would be one of a select few finalists still up for the lead role, which had now changed names from Zoe to Chloe. Instead, they found 50 other would-be stars preparing to read in the waiting room. The girls were called in one by one to audition for a panel that included London and Stroud, Judy Taylor, Peterman Porres, and Lee Chalet Chamel, not sure, an Emmy-nominated and pioneering female director who would be directing the Hannah Montana pilot. And when it was Miley's turn, she sang some bars from Mamma Mia and read a scene from the pilot's script. She hit some stuff organically, and it's pretty hysterical. She missed other things by a mile, Peterman recalled. She talks too fast, she doesn't wait, and she doesn't listen for other people's lines. But she's got so much energy, and she really is just so alive. It was difficult to get a read on the room, and the Cyruses returned home to Tennessee without any news. And then came the call. They wanted Miley back in LA to read again. The number of potential Chloes had dwindled down to just 30 at this point, and Tish and Miley made the cross-country trip again and did the whole spiel. Marsh was still hesitant about Miley. Testing showed that Southern accents did not play well to West Coast audiences, and Miley's Tennessee twang was thick. He consulted with Walt Disney Records executive Jay Landers and showed him a tape of Miley singing, and in Landers' opinion, she had everything that he could hope for in an artist. Think of Shania Twain, Landers told Marsh. She's made the country thing universal. I mean, who knows? End quote. But after 2 in-person rounds of finalist auditions with dozens of other potential Chloes in the waiting room, Miley was expecting another grueling cattle call when the 3rd audition request came in, and she flew out to LA once again. But now there were only 3 girls left. Miley, Daniela Monet, who'd recently played Jason Alexander's daughter on the CBS sitcom Listen Up, and Taylor Momsen, who played Cindy Lou Who in Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and had a part in Spy Kids 2. For her final audition, Miley wore a t-shirt that read, "I should have my own TV show," as she delivered her lines and sang an original song that she had written called Beach Weekend with a big grin. And after the girls left, Marsh went around the room asking everyone for their final thoughts. To hear all of this knowing it was a gold mine is so funny. I know. Well, that's actually a really common thing. Sometimes the people who have to fight the hardest for something are the one, like, I mean, we all know the classic story that Walt Disney was turned down 150 times before he just ended up opening his own studio. She played Ruthie. I don't even know who that character is, Becca. I'm not sure. You know, before opening his own studio because no one would give him a shot as an animator. You know what I mean? And we all know he ran and is the legacy of the greatest animation studio of all time. You know what I mean? So it's like, what are we doing here? People just can't see what they don't know. Taylor Momsen was, according to Porres, a very distant third, so they ruled her out. Daniela Monet, who was later co-star on Nickelodeon's Victorious, was an obvious choice for the part. Her singing voice wasn't as strong as Miley's, but her acting was more polished. She nailed every line, and she came with years of sitcom experience already under her belt. She would clearly be a pro on set, and she would be able to jump into the deep end of the series and do what Disney demanded of her. She's definitely better, Peterman told Marsh. She knows where the jokes are and she knows how to deliver them. And the more I watch her, the more bored I get. I know exactly what she's going to do before she even does it, end quote. And then there was Miley, quote, I watch Miley and I don't know what the hell she's going to do next, Peterman said, but I can't not take my eyes off her. And she can sing. Porres and Bonnet and Chamel agree. Okay, Marsh said, let's just pull the trigger then. Miley's contract, which she had signed when she made it to the final 3, had a base salary. That's unusual. You don't usually sign a contract when there's still other people in the running, because it kind of takes away your negotiating power. That's weird. Strange. Had a base salary of $8,000 per episode for the first season with a standard 5% bump each year. Taylor Momsen and Danielle Monet had also signed contracts as finalists, though with more significant past credits, they had earned a $10,000 episode to start had either of them been chosen. See, that's, yeah. But the producers still needed to finalize the rest of the cast. Disney had planned for Mitchell Whitefield, best known as Rachel's ex-fiancé Dr. Barry, the orthodontist on Friends, to play Chloe's dad, but who was a busy studio musician and would only occasionally pop in and out of scenes. Porres had originally envisioned Chloe as a Jewish teen girl in New York, and Whitfield himself was a Brooklynite native, paired well with that setup. But now that the lead was a very Southern gentleman, they were going to need to reconsider his casting. While Miley did chemistry reads with potential actors to play her character's best friend, Tish Cyrus floated the idea of Billy Ray auditioning to play Miley's dad on screen. He wasn't really doing anything at the moment, and maybe the Cyrus family could all move to California and recenter their lives around this new joint project. London and Stroud were kind of intrigued. They approached the showrunners about meeting with Billy Ray. Our first reaction to being told Billy Ray wanted to read was just, shit, Porres said. Miley, being Billy Ray's prodigy, hadn't really helped her get the part. Her dad's film had waned in the decade since his breakout song Achy Breaky Heart, and he was a complete unknown to the Disney Channel audience. Plus, he didn't have any experience doing comedy. His main acting gigs were the Pax TV drama Doc, in which he played the Doc in question, a rural, God-fearing man who joins a New York City practice, and David Lynch's Mulholland Drive, a minor role as the pool guy who beats up Justin Theroux. But wanting to keep the mother of their new star happy, they agreed to humor the Cyruses and allow Billy Ray to read. Ruthie said, "You shouldn't swear, there's ladies present, seem to be a group of kids." Oh, They allowed Billy Ray to read. When he arrived in Burbank for the meeting, he had his guitar in hand. It's like Linus with his blanket. He's nervous, so he just holds that guitar, Stroud said. And he was so over-the-top handsome, and we were like, holy crap. And then all he did was talk about his children. We were kind of dying. It was so endearing. Charm is always a good thing in TV. And when it was time for Billy Ray to read with Miley, it was a slam dunk. Miley had been stiff and hesitant reading with other adult actors, but with her actual dad, she was completely at ease. "You can't buy that kind of chemistry," Porres said. "It just blew us away." To finish the deal, Billy Ray and Miley did their special real-life handshake and then sat down with his guitar and sang a duet of "I Want My Mullet Back." Everyone in the room could see the magic, Stroud said, and that, for us, was the moment where the show really came together. Because the real-life father-daughter casting would now be a selling point of the show, they needed to rewrite Billy Ray's character so that he had a reason to come home all the time. His character name became the playful Robbie Ray, and his storyline would now be that of a musician who had given up his career to support his daughter's dreams. Art would soon imitate life. As shooting on Hannah Montana pilot got underway in 2005, a flurry of adjustments were made throughout. One of the biggest was changing Miley's character name from Chloe Stewart to Miley Stewart, just like they had changed Rose Baxter into Raven Baxter on That's So Raven. As we were working with Miley, we started to see her as the embodiment of what this character was, Peterman said. We just thought it was easier for everybody, and it's such a great name. Billy Ray has also said that his frequent slip-ups calling Miley by her real name during the shoot contributed to the switch. Way to be a professional, bro. The script was rewritten to incorporate more Southern slang, and the show's hallmark catchphrase, "Sweet Niblets," was the invention of either the Upper East Side raised series writer Todd Greenwald or was inspired by Peterman's youth in Wisconsin surrounded by corn. Both men take credit for this. Miley's character had originally been written to be shy and withdrawn when she wasn't performing as her Hannah Montana alter ego, but that didn't jive with Miley's Spitfire personality, so her character now became similarly outspoken and goofy. Likewise, Jackson Stewart, Miley's on-screen older brother, was written to be cripplingly introverted, only speaking through an orangutan puppet named Fletcher that he carried everywhere with him. But when they cast Jason Earls in the role, his comedic chops and gift for physical comedy made them reconsider that. "I was dreading the prospect of talking through a hand puppet," Jason said. "I took lessons with a puppeteer and spent so much time with that damn puppet, you've never seen anybody more thrilled for work to go to waste," he said. When Jason had auditioned for Hannah Montana, he told the casting directors, "I'm over 18, but I can play younger." The vague phrasing signaled that he wouldn't have to work kid hours or receive on-set schooling. That was music to casting's ears. But it also belied his actual age at the time, 27. Legally, casting directors aren't allowed to ask actors their specific age as part of the casting process, and he'd already had small parts playing a teen on That's So Raven and Phil the Future. "It wasn't until maybe the 6th or 7th episode of the season that they realized how old I actually was," Jason said. It is true, it's illegal for casting to ask your age. It's also illegal for anyone in an interview for any job to ask your age. So the way that casting directors usually get around this, and this is not a hard, fast thing, it doesn't always work, but usually in casting, if we're unsure about someone's approximate age, if they have a school listed on their credits, like a college or high school or whatever, you might say like, oh my God, what year did you graduate from there? I know someone who went there, or whatever like that. And then if they say like, oh, I graduated in 2003, then you kind of know how old they are approximately, right? You know? In the end, the decade-plus age gap between Jason and the rest of the actors playing kids on the show was seen as an asset. I can't believe he was 27 at casting. Yeah, that's what they're saying. He took on the role of mentor as served as a crucial bridge between the creatives and the young cast, which also included Emily Osment as Lily. Miley and Emily trusted Jason's acting expertise and listened to his notes, and he, in turn, was a conduit to the writer's room, letting them know of any grievances among the cast. He led by example. In his work ethic and the way he approached the craft of acting, the kids all looked at him and thought, oh man, that's totally what I should be doing, said the writer and producer Douglas Liven. The show was 100% not what it The show would 100% not be what it was if it wasn't for Jason being the adult in the position he was and teaching those kids how to do the job that they were completely unprepared for. Yeah, a lot of people ask illegal questions in interviews. It's true, Jen. But while Miley and Emily looked up to their older co-star, they struggled at times to get along with each other. The two girls had gelled when they were first cast as best friends on Hannah, and then they got to know each other. Emily was from an industry family. Her dad, Eugene, was an acting coach. Her older brother, Haley Joel, had been Oscar nominated for his work on The Sixth Sense. Emily was very professional. She was Hollywood, Hiromi Dames, who played the socialite Tracy Van Horn on the show, said. She knew everything she was supposed to do. She was almost like an athlete, and her dad was on the sidelines coaching her. The Cyruses were not that way. Miley flew by the seat of her pants a lot of the time, Liben said. There was a little bit of animosity there because Miley was getting all the attention and doing none of the work. There were about 3 episodes where they weren't even speaking to each other, end quote. During the course of the show, there were jealous fights over cute guest stars and an early tiff in the on-set classroom requiring parental intervention to broker a peace treaty. But, as Peterman put it, the girls were smart enough to work it out. They figured out it was more fun when they weren't fighting. Before production on any Disney Channel series began, Rich Ross hosted a family dinner for the cast and their parents, a tradition that he'd first begun when he was working at Nickelodeon. I wanted to open my doors to people if they needed things and have no mystery to man behind the curtain, he said. From the beginning, I always knew that the talent would be our calling card, and I knew that they needed to know I cared deeply. At the gathering for Hannah Montana, he recalled Miley being very clear about her intentions in the industry and telling him, Hilary Duff is my role model. That's who I want to be. That's what I want to be. This is an opportunity. That did not come to be. As a regular season production got underway on Hannah, Miley approached her calling with grit and determination, despite her lack of industry experience. Miley was just so fearless, Jason Earles said. She was always willing to be the butt of a joke. That was really mature of her and also really smart because it made her 1,000 times more relatable than some of the other leading teenage girls on other shows, end quote. To capture the performance footage for the show, production set up an actual concert for Miley to perform as Hannah at the Glendale Center Theater, and they gave out free tickets and filled the venue with kids who had no idea who Miley or Hannah was. Despite her anonymity, the energy there was electric. Miley had a natural stage presence, and she'd grown up on tour with her dad and was comfortable with the technical side of performing, unfazed by the hot lights or the feedback from the microphone. She was incredible at that concert, Peterman said. That was part of when I knew, oh my God, what have we got here? But back on set, Miley was less competent. She was still learning the difference between stage left and camera left, and it was clear that she and the other young cast wasn't quite ready for the pressure of filming in front of a live audience. Instead, they filmed the first few episodes without an audience at all to ease them into the routine. By the time the 4th episode rolled around, production had cut the cord and attempted to do a live show. As the audience took their seats, the cast could hear the buzz of the crowd from backstage. The first scene they were going to shoot was a tricky one. On the Stewart Living area set, Emily had to ride it on a skateboard and do an awkward robot dance. Miley had to convincingly have an anguished one-sided phone call, and Jason had to launch a marshmallow off of a spoon and catch it in his mouth. I remember how white they were, how nervous they were, Peterman said. We just said, just breathe, and if you hear laughter, wait. Don't say your next line yet, or they won't hear you. Original programming head Adam Bonnet stood on the side and watched anxiously. The crew held their breath. Action! Emily whizzed by on the skateboard. Miley slowed down and paused for laughs. And Jason banged his fist on the spoon at just the right moment to flip that marshmallow into his mouth. They were all perfect. Nobody dropped a line, Peterman said, and the audience went nuts. Bonnet could barely contain his glee. Oh my God, we've got a hit, he told the producers afterwards. Adam had been telling you that for weeks, a slightly annoyed Peterman told him. Bonnet shrugged. Well, I don't know it's a hit until the audience tells me it's a hit. Honestly, that's fair. To guarantee eyes on Hannah's March 24th, 2006 premiere, Disney Channel sandwiched it between the debut of DCOM Cowbells, starring Ali and AJ Michalka, and an encore showing of High School Musical. Hannah brought in 5.4 million viewers, the highest rating of any series premiere in the network's history. The first week on that show was out, I was at the gym, and this 30-year-old tatted up dude came up to me and was like, bro, that new show, you're funny as balls on that thing, Jason Earl said. And I was like, do you have kids? And he was like, nah, man, I de-stress with the Disney Channel. Los Angeles, I don't love that, actually. It's that I have mixed feelings about that. I want people to distress however they distress, but like, I don't know. Feels weird. Los Angeles Times TV critic Robert Lloyd described Hannah as not the finest of its kind, but a solid little sitcom that will help move a lot of units when 13-year-old star Miley Cyrus starts fulfilling that recording contract that she's also been signed to. The network quickly upped the first season order from 20 to 26 episodes, and while Disney could tout that Sweet Life was a top series for kids on basic cable, Hannah was the #1 show on basic cable with kids and tweens. Yeah, Amanda, and this is going to sound like a double standard, but it feels different to me when it's a female. And I know that's not great of me to even think that. In my head, what I wanted to say was, like, if he was watching like the cartoons on Disney Channel, I'd feel differently, but like watching an 11-year-old girl when you're a fully grown man feels weird to me. I don't know. And maybe it's just my life experience getting in my head. I don't know. It's like all the things where you hear about people hitting save on like young kids' videos here on TikTok, and then they end up like in a weird part of the web, you know, like them doing like seemingly innocent things get turned into something that's not. It's not fair. You're right, it's not fair of me to think it, but it did cross my mind. Let's see. And in the hearts of tatted up gym rats, Miley still needed some hand-holding to hit the jokes as they continued filming season 1. But her effervescent energy was nearly enough to carry her through. She perfected that Lucy sees a spider face, that sitcom shorthand for the ew expression Lucille Ball often made on I Love Lucy, and the writers made sure to pepper it into most scripts. Look, I love Miley. When we first got her in at 12 years old, she couldn't really act, though, Lieben said. You couldn't give her something and then expect she was going to do the work and come back. But there was a moment when that changed. That breakthrough came in season 1, episode 24, The Idle Side of Me. The script included a scene where the school's flaky I don't know what this word is. Follicked? Flaky follicked? I have no idea what I'm reading right now. Anyway, pest. Dandruff Danny. Oh, I see. His name is Dandruff Danny. Shakes his debris all over Miley. It gave no direction for how Miley should deliver the line that immediately followed that dousing, but Miley made the choice to turn it into a gag, sputtering between each word as she spit fake dandruff flakes out of her mouth. Take after take, she nailed it. Finally, the episode's director, Fred Savage of the Wonder Years fame, asked Miley to do one more take, this time delivering the lines straightforward in a straightforward manner without all the theatrics. Miley nodded, but as she walked back to her mark, she mumbled under her breath, "All right, here's the unfunny one for Fred." When we were behind the monitors, we could hear everything the cast said, even when they're mumbling it and they don't want us to hear it, end quote, Liven said. We all said to him, "She's absolutely right." And it was the defining moment where we knew she knows what's funny and she created that herself. We don't have to keep hand-holding for her. With multiple successful multi-camera sitcoms now simultaneously underway, the network executives decided to bring a fan-favorite sitcom trope to the Disney Channel, the crossover episodes. The Suite Life of Zack and Cody, shot in the same building as That's So Raven at Hollywood Center Studios, now known as Sunset Las Palmas Studios, and Hannah Montana filmed at the KTLA studios, now known as Sunset Bronson Studios, about a 6-minute drive away. And just as Gary Marshall had once done with Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley, Disney Channel pulled players from their various sitcoms together for 2 sets of a Frankenstein episode. That Suite Life of Hannah Montana in 2006 and The Wizards on Deck with Hannah Montana, bringing in the later series Wizards of Waverly Place, which also shot at Hollywood Center in 2009. Most of the actors loved having the chance to do something different and interact with other casts, but there were challenges, like when Wizards on Deck with Hannah Montana shot in the midst of Miley Cyrus and Selena Gomez's spat over Nick Jonas, who they both dated at various points. Across that trilogy of episodes, Miley and Selena avoided having any scenes together, while perhaps also the result of scheduling issues. That was the way I remember it, was that The Suite Life was no man's land between the other 2 shows. Suite Life writer Tim Pollack said, "Selena didn't want to do Hannah, and Miley didn't want to do Wizards. Dylan and Cole had to do each of those shows to make it work." A scheduled break between filming part 2 and 3 of Wizards on Deck with Hannah Montana episode also caused continuity issues. In the months between shooting that Suite Life episode and the companion Hannah Montana episode, the Sprouses experienced a growth spurt. Their voices changed, and Dylan injured his arm. They had to hide Dylan's cast under assorted props and alter the boys' audio track in post-production to create a semblance of unity in the voices across the episodes. Getting the various shows' creative teams to cooperate with one another was a headache. Each group of the writers punched up the lines for their own characters on the other shows, while the producers had to jockey for power on temporarily shared sets. Quote, "There were more egos involved with figuring out all the showrunners working together than with bringing the kids together," Bonnet said. Added Wizards of Waverly Place creator Tom Greenwald, "It's not fun to write, and we didn't want to do it, but the fans did love it, so it's hard to argue with that," end quote. But even on the day-to-day Hannah Montana set, the working relationship between Hannah's 2 showrunners, Porries and Peterman, was a delicate balance. Peterman was a laid-back, steady ship. Porries was uptight and a bundle of nerves. "I love Michael like a brother, but we had a different style of working and there were a lot of times when we battled each other," Peterman said. "He would chase ideas like a dog in the park, and he brought a wonderful whimsy to the show. Unlike on Raven, where Porries' impulses had gone unchecked, here, Peterman served as a crucial buffer between Porries and the writers, and Porries and the network executives. Steve kept Michael focused on what he needed to do, and I think Michael benefited from that," Director of Photography Alan K. Walker said. "He became a changed guy." Co-producer Liebling, why can't I pronounce anything today, described the set a little more bluntly. "Peterman's tragic flaws, he's way too nice of a human being, and Porries is a brazen and pushy one." He said, "My job for 5 years became stepping in between mommy and daddy." On the set with actors, Porries was once again pleasant and generous, but in the writer's room he struggled to make decisions and would lose his temper. "Still, he's not Dan Schneider at all," Liebling said, drawing the comparison between the allegedly hostile Nickelodeon showrunner. Quote, "I don't think Porries has the talent, but he is a very nice person." By season 2, Hannah Montana was Disney Channel's crown jewel. In 2008, Disney merchandise aimed specifically at tweens ages 9 to 12, a sector driven by High School Musical and Hannah Montana, surged from the previous year's $400 million to an eye-watering $2.7 billion. Quote, "This show became something bigger than the channel itself," Peterman said. Hannah Montana had enough clout to attract a deluge of celebrity guest stars, including Ray Liotta, Sheryl Crow, Brooke Shields, Vicki Lawrence, Heather Locklear, The Rock, Lisa Rinna, Donny Osmond, Ray Romano, John Cryer, Dr. Phil, and it also generated a steady stream of media coverage. But, as was often the case, the showrunners found that praise and rewards from the Disney Channel brass were hard to come by. Quote, "If we were asked by any other network, you would be asking me where my wife was and where I want to go on vacation during the hiatus and what kind of car I want to drive as a gift," Peterman once told Bonnet. But instead, Peterman reflected, they don't want anyone getting too uppity. While creatives were able to win the occasional network arguments that they might have otherwise lost due to Hannah's outsized success, they were also under more scrutiny. "We were the cash cow," Labeling said, "and the executives in charge of steering the train are now afraid that if it goes off the rails on their watch, they're going to get fired. So they micromanaged all of us." And, end quote. And again, the budget for the show was kept tight no matter how much the series succeeded. When it was time for the season 3 wrap party, the showrunners wanted to throw a bigger than usual party to thank everyone for their hard work and celebrate the show's massive achievements. They had leftover money in the budget and they submitted a request to the network. It was denied. If the show had leftover money in their budget, they would need to return it to Disney. "The number that they offered us to spend on the party would have maybe covered drinks and hot dogs at the Hollywood Inn near the Burbank airport," Peterman said. "We were really upset, and maybe I could have handled it better, but I was tired and I was angry about the nickeling and diming at this point." Instead of accepting the offer, Peterman and Porres composed a letter in reply. "We understand that there are budget constraints, but we don't feel that we can do a wrap party the way we want to do it with that kind of money," they wrote. "We will pay the difference, but unfortunately, we have a limited amount of money, so we won't be able to invite any of the Disney executives to the party. We're very sorry about that." The network executives promptly approved their bigger budget. I mean, it's kind of clever. That's a way to do it. A significant part of Hannah Montana's budget went toward creating a believable pop star look. To construct Hannah's signature blonde mane, renowned wig maker Natasha Ladke sourced an untreated human hair wig from Russia. Once the pale blonde tresses arrived in LA, she would take 6 bundles of hair from each from a different head and hand weave them into strands in a lace cap and then hand dye chunky lowlights throughout. Over the course of the Hannah Montana series, tour, and movie, Ladek created about 10 custom Hannah wigs of varying lengths and styles. Billions and you can't get a cool wrap party. Yeah, apparently. Each wig took 80 to 100 hours to make and cost roughly $6,000. "The lighter the hair, the longer the hair, the more expensive it is," said Ladek, who worked on others, including Jennifer Lopez's Selena wigs and Angela Bassett's Black Panther locks. "It's also quality. Is it straight? Is it shiny? How much natural moisture is in the hair? It's a process. It's almost like buying diamonds." While the wigs were an instant hit, the network was less enthused by Hannah's pop star wardrobe in season 1. They brought in costume designer Dahlia Forotan ahead of season 2 to elevate the clothes with a more aspirational slant going forward. Many of the most memorable ensembles from the show, think about Hannah's zebra striped t-shirts, oversized belts, mini skirts, and combat boots, are her creation. But despite the character being wealthy and famous, Disney did not want any extravagant couture in Hannah's closet. Aspirational, but still attainable was the name of the game. So, Forotan shopped at trendy youthful boutiques on Melrose Avenue and scoured Nordstrom's and visited the celebrity-adored Kitson to create Hannah's fashion-forward style. Oh, Kitson. For Miley Stewart's more down-to-earth looks, she sourced pieces from Forever 21, H&M, Target, and local shops in Malibu. Over time, both sides of the character style involved. Quote, "We would push our outfits to the limit," Forotan said, "and I wanted it to look cute. Disney sometimes wanted me to push it past cute, but then it would start to look clownish." In later seasons, Miley began taking a stand. She would be like, "I'm not coming out of my dressing room, or I'm not even putting this on," Forotan said. "She was really starting to get strong and standing up to us. I don't think they had a choice but to respect it," end quote. And as with Raven, there was once again concern over the star's body type on the screen. This time, Some middling network executives worried that Miley's lanky frame might reinforce the notion that to be a pop star you needed to be ultra thin. This is the other side of the coin. Miley was naturally very skinny, and they wanted me to cover up her body as much as possible, especially her arms. They didn't want to create an image of, like, this is what's beauty and you have to be skinny, Forotan said. They wanted her to be aspirational, but they didn't want her to be harmful to kids. It's hard, right? Because this is her natural body, so it's, like, hard to put that on her, but, like, I get what they're saying at the same time. You don't want it to be aspirational, but she's not doing anything to make this happen. That's just what she's naturally like. And it's become obvious that that's what she's naturally like because her body's never changed. It's just what she has to work with. So, I don't know. I'm of two minds about it. When Miley joined Hannah, effectively so, too, did the extended Cyrus clan. Glad they were thinking about, but it is just her body. Yeah, it's hard though, right? Like, I get what they're saying at the same time. So it's difficult. They were thinking about, but it is just her body. Yeah, it's hard though, right? Like, I get what they're saying at the same time. So it's difficult. Who Miley used to describe as the real Beverly Hillbillies, Tish and Billy Ray first met at a nightclub in 1991 and married a year after Miley was born. They settled on a sprawling farm in Franklin, Tennessee, ooh, bougie, just south of Nashville. There, they raised their large blended family consisting of Miley, her younger siblings Brayson and Noah, and Tish's two children from a previous relationship, Trace and Brandy, whom Billy Ray legally adopted. Billy Ray also has a son named Christopher, born 7 months before Miley with another woman. Just going to go back for a second and read one other line so we can connect the dots here. They met in 1991 and married a year after Miley was born. If someone was born 7 months before Miley, and not a single person in the family has a relationship with him, the brother, really? That really sucks, Amanda. Because the Hannah soundstage was actually 2 stages that had been combined into one, Billy Ray and Miley occupied a whole suite that included their separate dressing rooms, a sitting area, and a kitchen. Tish's mom, Miley's mammy, we're still using that, served as Miley's on-set guardian and ran the Miley World fan club out of a shared kitchen where she sorted through mountains of fan mail and playfully chastised her granddaughter as she ran by with, "Oh, Miley, you're crazy." And other times, she'd call Miley out if she felt her behavior got too unruly. If Miley was being a brat, her grandma would just wouldn't have it. That sound is coming from your end, Sasha. What sound? I don't hear any weird sounds, actually. You guys hear a weird sound? I mean, I can hear a fan. No, I don't hear anything else. There was no room for her to be a bad person, Jason Earle said. And then there was Miley's godmother, Dolly Parton. Something outdoors? No, not here. Billy Ray had opened up for Parton at several concerts in the early 90s and appeared in her Romeo music video as Parton's strapping boy toy. They developed a close bond, and when Miley was born, Parton told him, "She's going to be my fairy goddaughter." While working on season 2, the Cyruses alerted the showrunners that Parton would be open to appearing on the show. Peterman called her up and they worked out a guest role for her playing Miley Stewart's Aunt Dolly. Yeah, I just hear the fan also. "All right, that sounds fun," Parton told him. "I'll be there." "Fantastic," Peterman replied. "Is there anything you need when you get here?" "Darling," she said, "all I need's a toilet and a place to hang my wigs." Good on you, Dolly. That bond that Billy Ray and Miley had developed during the childhood growing up on the road was more like 2 friends than that of a parent and a child. Tish, who also served as Miley's manager, was the one who had to discipline and put her foot down when either of them crossed the line. When a season 2 episode of Hannah involved a Cinderella-inspired fantasy sequence in which Robbie Ray charges down the stairs, calling Miley's steward a useless freeloader and yelling at her to clean the house, Billy Ray instead entered with his soft drawl, kindly requesting Miley to please do what he asked. Yeah, she is her godmother. Yeah, that's right. The producers called cut and pulled Billy Ray aside. "You gotta yell at her," they told him. "Well, I've never yelled at Miley," he said. "I'm afraid I'm gonna scare her." In that balance of power, Billy Ray was the child and Miley was the adult a lot of the time, Liveline said. She never, ever showed up late or underprepared. And we're talking about a 13 or 14 or maybe 15-year-old girl. On the other hand, Billy Ray would often just be lost. We'd be like, where is Billy Ray? He's supposed to be on set. And then we'd call him and he would be in Vegas. End quote. Porys agreed. "I always say Billy was the biggest baby on set. He was my biggest problem, but he wasn't like a big problem." Those who worked on the show described Billy Ray as gentle and a tender-hearted man who generously shared his time and emotions with other actors. Jason Earl lived an hour-and-a-half commute away from the studio during filming the first season, so Billy Ray offered for him to stay with the Cyruses whenever he liked and dubbed him Jason Ray Cyrus. Other times, Billy Ray would wander around set having heart-to-hearts with the other actors when he should have been working. But it was very clear to everyone involved that Billy Ray didn't enjoy doing Hannah Montana. Playing second fiddle on a kid's sitcom wasn't exactly creatively fulfilling. He did it for Miley. Billy Ray Cyrus didn't need to be there, and he didn't want to be there, Frances Collier, who played Hannah's bodyguard Roxy, said. You think about that. You don't need the money. You don't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, but you do it for your child. And I thought that was beautiful. As time went on, however, Miley's success seemed to weigh on Billy Ray. Her superstardom served as a constant reminder of the ways in which his own stardom had fallen. Quote, "I've always been known as Billy Ray Cyrus's daughter," Miley told the New York Times in 2006, "but now they say my name instead." It was a classic Hollywood story of shifting stardoms, just playing out through the father and daughter rather than a couple. Billy Ray lived A Star Is Born, Liveline said. He was the biggest star in country music for a very long time, and his little girl would come on stage with him, and she would be this little treat for the audience. 100,000 people were screaming, "Billy, Billy!" And then he thinks, oh, I'm going to do this little Disney Channel show and help launch her career. But by the end of the first season, she had changed the way tickets were sold at concerts in America, and he couldn't sell out 6,500 seats in Primm, Nevada. And when that happened, we went, we all know how this ends, right? End quote. Between Hannah scenes, Billy Ray would retreat to his dressing room where the crew quipped that he was having a creative moment, as they suspected he was imbibing in alcohol and WEED. We would always joke about it. Billy Ray would joke about it. Miley would make jokes about it, Liveline said, but I never saw him visibly drunk. I never saw him visibly high. I will say it would be impossible to tell the difference. Others said that Billy Ray's habits were an issue that did interfere with his work. Quote, he would come on set, let's say, unprepared and under-focused, and he barely knew what was going on, Porys said. We just couldn't do much of anything about it, as much as we tried. We just had a show to do. By season 4, Billy Ray was miserable. Quote, it got to the point where Billy was like, she's the show. You don't need me anymore. Just write me out, Peterman said. Added Porys, at his soul, he is a loving guy and a very devoted dad, and he got into something that turned out to be way more than he thought it was going to be. If it was just Billy making a choice, he probably would have left the show. He was there for Miley, and he stuck it out for 101 episodes for Miley. In 2010, Billy Ray filed for divorce from Tish, and when Hannah Montana wrapped for good, he promptly moved back to Tennessee while the rest of the family continued on with their lives in Los Angeles. After 1 month after the final episode of Hannah aired, he gave a melancholy interview to GQ magazine, lamenting the ways in which Hannah had ruined his life. Satan was now attacking his family, and he had lost control of his daughter completely, who was now 18 and, in his view, surrounded by enabling handlers. I tell you right now, that damn show destroyed my family, he said, adding that he wished the series had never happened. I'd take it all back in a second for my family to be here and everybody just be okay, safe, sound, happy, and normal, and we would have just been fantastic. Heck, I'd erase it all in a second if I could. On Hannah's 15th anniversary episode in 2021, Miley expressed the opposite sentiment. She sent flower arrangements to many of those involved with the show and penned a letter to her former alter ego, writing a 2-page handwritten memo that said, "Breathing life into you for those 6 years was an honor." And she ended it with, "Not a day goes by where I forget where I came from. A building in Burbank, California, with a room full of people with the power to fulfill my destiny. And they did. They gave me you. The greatest gift a girl could ask for. I love you, Hannah Montana." Different strokes for different folks, I guess, right? Jeez. Well, you know, it's just one of those things. Yeah, ruined his life is crazy. Wild times. In case anyone did not know, we have Roll for Slime After Dark tonight. It is an age-locked live. She does seem to have a great attitude about it, Amanda. I don't know a whole lot about her, but yeah. Yeah, apparently, Naisa. So I will be on at 4:30. Don't miss that. The link will be up on Patreon, of course, as it always is. Don't forget, you have to be logged into an account and you have to copy the link that I'm going to post in the post into either a browser or the YouTube app, because they don't, I don't know why, but the new Patreon update does not, yeah, it's tonight, Naisa, yeah. Isn't it tonight, or am I crazy? I thought it was tonight. And then Wednesday's the Q&A, pretty sure, yeah. I mean, they're at the same time, so I guess it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It's 2 back-to-backs at the same time. So that's the whole kit and caboodle, and I will see you all there. Oh, yeah. We have one tonight and one tomorrow night, Naisa, both on Patreon. Advent calendar pre-orders are up for just a couple more days. If you want to grab one, now's the time. Amanda, I don't know if you got my message, but I messaged you about which Beanie Babies, so you could tell me what it looks like so I could go looking for it in the bin, because I don't know what they all look like. I have exciting news. I'm getting a dog on Thursday. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. What kind of dog? Do you know? You might not know if you're getting it through a service. You might not know yet what kind of dog it is. I always get like simultaneously happy and sad when I see service dogs, because I'm like, oh my God, you're so cute. You're doing a business. But then I know I'm not allowed to talk to them or touch them. So I'm always like, I'm going to pretend I don't want to give you love. Yes. And I'll mail your slime out as soon as I get that info, Amanda. And then anyone who's doing a trade for their advent calendars, just make sure you message me before Friday. I don't know. Yeah, you don't know yet. That makes sense, Anya. All right, so I'll see you all on there tonight. As I said, copy the link, and that is how you will get on it. And that's it. That's the whole thing. That's it. Yeah, they're usually labs. That's fair. All right, bye guys. See you tomorrow or later.